10,000 words in English. Levels from A0 to C2. Part number 11. Welcome to the new series of the Talk English Fluently channel. In this fresh collection, I will be explaining 10,000 words that cover levels from A0 to C2. This is a vast and rich compilation of words that will greatly enhance your English language skills. Please watch the video until the end, and if you have any suggestions for improving future videos in this series, kindly leave them in the comments section. I appreciate your support through comments, likes, and subscribing to my channel. Ready to begin. Let's go. Part number 11. 500 words. Embellish.
She loves to embellish her stories with extra details.
The artist decided to embellish the painting with gold leaf.
Flatter.
She doesn't like it when people flatter her insincerely.
He tried to flatter his boss to get a promotion.
False.
The rumors about her were completely false.
He gave a false name to the police.
Prospectus.
Investors carefully read the company's prospectus before buying shares.
The university's prospectus provides information on all the courses offered.
Smuggle.
They attempted to smuggle rare birds into the country.
The police caught the gang trying to smuggle drugs.
Parmesan.
Parmesan cheese has a strong, nutty flavor.
She sprinkled Parmesan on top of her pasta.
Spaghetti.
He made a big pot of spaghetti for dinner.
The kids love to eat spaghetti with meatballs.
Incessant.
She complained about the incessant barking of the neighbor's dog.
The incessant noise from the construction was annoying.
Chili.
He added extra chili to his soup for more heat.
Chili peppers can be very spicy.
Import.
The company specializes in the import of electronics.
They decided to import wine from France.
Queue.
We had to queue for hours to get tickets.
She stood in the queue at the grocery store.
Marquis.
The Marquis was known for his generosity.
The Marquis invited everyone to his grand estate.
Picnic.
They planned a picnic in the park for Saturday.
We enjoyed a lovely picnic by the lake.
Voodoo.
They visited a museum that had a section on voodoo culture.
The film featured a voodoo priestess who cast spells.
Jig.
The children danced a lively jig.
He showed us how to do a traditional Irish jig.
Noun.
She asked the students to identify the noun in the sentence.
A noun can be a person, place, or thing.
Walkman.
He listened to his favorite tapes on a Walkman.
The Walkman was a popular gadget in the 80s.
Zion.
Zion is often mentioned in religious texts.
They visited the beautiful Zion National Park.
Havoc.
The storm wreaked havoc on the small town.
The dog caused havoc in the house while we were out.
Filth.
He couldn't believe the filth he saw on the streets.
The house was covered in filth after the party.
Impenetrable.
The fortress walls were impenetrable.
They found the dense jungle almost impenetrable.
Inshore.
Inshore fishing is popular in this region.
The boat sailed inshore to avoid the storm.
Parole.
He was released on parole after serving 5 years.
The parole board will review his case next month.
Endemic.
The plant is endemic to this region.
Malaria is endemic in many tropical countries.
Peep.
She took a quick peep through the keyhole.
We heard the peep of baby birds in the nest.
Memento.
He brought back a small memento from his trip.
She kept the ticket stub as a memento of their first date.
Mr.
The teacher asked, "What is your name, Mr.?"
Excuse me, mister, you dropped your wallet, she said.
Studio.
The band recorded their album in a famous studio.
She rented a studio to paint in.
Objective.
The objective of the game is to score the most points.
She tried to stay objective during the discussion.
Executor.
The executor must ensure the will is carried out correctly.
He was named the executor of his father's will.
Alleviate.
She took medicine to alleviate the pain.
They worked to alleviate the suffering of the refugees.
Composure.
She lost her composure when she heard the bad news.
He maintained his composure during the interview.
Canine.
The police trained their canine units for search and rescue.
He has a canine companion named Rex.
Concert.
The concert tickets sold out quickly.
They attended a live concert last night.
Forlorn.
She felt forlorn after her friends moved away.
The forlorn puppy sat alone in the shelter.
Diaper.
They bought a new brand of diaper for better comfort.
She changed the baby's diaper before leaving.
Rumor.
There was a rumor that the company was closing.
She heard a rumor about their engagement.
Knight.
He was honored as a knight by the Queen.
The knight wore shining armor.
Lurid.
The book contained lurid details of the crime.
The tabloids published lurid stories about celebrities.
Caste.
He faced discrimination because of his caste.
The social caste system is deeply ingrained in their culture.
Tart.
She baked a lemon tart for dessert.
The tart flavor of the candy was refreshing.
Heighten.
They tried to heighten awareness about the issue.
The music helped to heighten the suspense in the movie.
Skewer.
He used a skewer to grill the vegetables.
The meat was perfectly cooked on the skewer.
Brew.
She made a fresh brew of coffee in the morning.
He learned how to brew his own beer.
Drab.
The room was decorated in drab colors.
She felt her wardrobe was too drab and needed some bright clothes.
Stout.
The stout man carried the heavy load easily.
He preferred drinking a dark stout beer.
Velour.
She wore a soft velour tracksuit.
The couch was upholstered in luxurious velour.
Drown.
They could drown out the noise with music.
He was careful not to drown while swimming in the deep end.
Spa.
She spent a relaxing day at the spa.
The spa offered a variety of treatments.
Concord.
The treaty was signed in a spirit of concord.
They reached a concord after hours of negotiation.
Veil.
She wore a white veil on her wedding day.
The mist created a veil over the mountains.
Tragedy.
They experienced a great tragedy when their house burned down.
The play was a tragedy that moved everyone to tears.
Physiological.
Exercise has many physiological benefits.
The doctor explained the physiological changes that occur with aging.
Circa.
The house was built circa 1900.
The artifact was dated to circa 500 BC.
Hypnotize.
The magician tried to hypnotize the audience.
She felt like the music could hypnotize her.
Antecedent.
The historian studied the antecedent events leading to the war.
The antecedent of the pronoun he is the boy.
Aromatic.
The kitchen was filled with aromatic spices.
She enjoyed the aromatic scent of the flowers.
Mankind.
The book explores the history of mankind.
These discoveries benefit all of mankind.
Praise.
She received high praise for her performance.
The coach gave the team praise for their hard work.
Minor.
They found a rich minor vein of gold.
The miner worked long hours underground.
Artichoke.
She prepared a delicious artichoke dip.
They grilled the artichoke with olive oil and herbs.
Tangent.
In geometry, a tangent touches a circle at one point.
The conversation went off on a tangent.
Rustle.
She heard a rustle in the bushes.
The rustle of the leaves was soothing.
Glisten.
Her eyes began to glisten with tears.
The morning dew made the grass glisten.
Ledger.
He recorded all transactions in the ledger.
The accountant balanced the ledger at the end of the month.
Gallant.
He made a gallant effort to help.
The gallant knight saved the princess.
Icing.
She decorated the cake with blue icing.
The cookies were topped with sweet icing.
Gum.
The gum stuck to the bottom of his shoe.
He chewed a piece of gum.
Discard.
She decided to discard the old clothes.
He had to discard the spoiled food.
Cellular.
Scientists studied the cellular structure of the tissue.
The cellular network was down for maintenance.
Douse.
He had to douse the fire with water.
They quickly doused the lights when they saw someone coming.
Outskirts.
The outskirts of the town were quiet and peaceful.
They moved to the outskirts of the city.
Extant.
The oldest extant manuscript is in the museum.
Some ancient species are no longer extant.
Intone.
She could intone the poem from memory.
The priest began to intone the prayer.
Deride.
They would often deride his ideas.
She felt bad when her classmates would deride her for her accent.
Prototype.
The prototype was tested extensively before production.
The engineers built a prototype of the new gadget.
Commence.
The ceremony will commence at noon.
They decided to commence the project next week.
Malicious.
The software protected against malicious attacks.
He was accused of spreading malicious rumors.
Ewer.
The whir of the fan helped him sleep.
She heard the whir of the blender in the kitchen.
Glimpse.
He only got a brief glimpse of the sunset before it disappeared.
She caught a glimpse of the actor as he left the theater.
Heat.
You should heed the warning signs.
She decided to heed her friend's advice.
Regimen.
The doctor prescribed a new dietary regimen.
He followed a strict exercise regimen.
Cavity.
The dentist found a cavity in her tooth.
He had to get a cavity filled last week.
Amnesty.
They applied for amnesty under the new law.
The government declared an amnesty for political prisoners.
Analog.
She prefers the warm sound of analog records.
An analog clock shows time with hands.
Flora.
They studied the flora in the tropical rainforest.
The flora of the region includes many rare plants.
Angler.
The angler caught a large fish.
He is an experienced angler who loves fishing.
Septic.
The wound became septic and required medical attention.
They had to clean the septic tank.
Stench.
The stench from the garbage was overwhelming.
They couldn't stand the stench in the basement.
Jerk.
He didn't mean to jerk the door so hard.
The sudden jerk of the car startled everyone.
Combat.
They were trained in hand-to-hand combat.
The soldiers prepared for combat.
Competence.
They admired his competence as a leader.
Her competence in the job was never in question.
Steep.
The path was very steep and hard to climb.
She likes her tea steep and strong.
Impulse.
She resisted the impulse to shout.
He bought the shoes on an impulse.
Stricture.
There was a stricture on the use of electronic devices.
The doctor found a stricture in his artery.
Cockroach.
They called an exterminator to get rid of the cockroach infestation.
A cockroach scurried across the kitchen floor.
Terracotta.
They decorated the garden with terracotta pots.
The ancient terracotta soldiers were discovered in China.
Fever.
The fever broke after 2 days.
He had a high fever and felt very sick.
Bodice.
The dress had a lace bodice.
She adjusted the bodice of her gown.
Cute.
She wore a cute dress to the party.
The puppy was incredibly cute.
Pillar.
The ancient temple had a tall pillar at its entrance.
He is considered a pillar of the community.
Gradual.
She noticed a gradual improvement in her health.
The change in the company's policy was gradual.
Review.
He wrote a review of the new restaurant.
The teacher asked the students to review their notes.
Menstruate.
She began to menstruate at the age of 12.
Women typically menstruate once a month.
Fascist.
The regime was known for its fascist policies.
They protested against the rise of fascist groups.
Electronic.
The store sells a variety of electronic gadgets.
He prefers reading books on his electronic tablet.
Intoxicate.
The wine began to intoxicate him after a few glasses.
The scent of the flowers seemed to intoxicate her senses.
Shatter.
The news seemed to shatter his hopes.
The glass vase will shatter if it falls.
Aft.
The crew moved to the aft section of the ship.
He stood on the aft deck and watched the sunset.
Undercurrent.
The river had a strong undercurrent that was dangerous for swimmers.
There was an undercurrent of tension in the room.
Idiom.
Break a leg is a common idiom in theater.
She found it difficult to understand the English idiom.
Accelerate.
They worked hard to accelerate the project's completion.
The car began to accelerate down the highway.
Eligible.
He is eligible to vote in the next election.
Only eligible students can apply for the scholarship.
Knave.
They admired the beautiful stained glass windows in the nave.
The wedding was held in the nave of the cathedral.
Aloof.
He remained aloof during the meeting.
She was often perceived as aloof, but she was just shy.
Diameter.
They measured the diameter of the tree trunk.
The diameter of the circle was 10 inches.
Bankrupt.
The company went bankrupt after the financial crisis.
He feared he would become bankrupt due to his debts.
Embroider.
He decided to embroider a design on the pillowcase.
She likes to embroider flowers on her clothes.
Mart.
They visited the local mart to buy groceries.
The mart had a wide variety of products.
Directorate.
She was appointed to the directorate last year.
The directorate announced new policies for the company.
Lilt.
She spoke with a pleasant lilt in her voice.
The song had a charming lilt that made everyone smile.
Morsel.
He offered a morsel of cheese to the mouse.
She savored every morsel of the delicious cake.
Gutter.
The rainwater flowed down the gutter.
They had to clean the leaves out of the gutter.
Solo.
He decided to go on a solo trip to the mountains.
She performed a beautiful piano solo at the concert.
Basin.
The basin was full of soapy water.
The river flowed into the large basin.
Accomplice.
She was charged as an accomplice in the crime.
The thief was caught, but his accomplice escaped.
Universe.
The universe is vast and full of mysteries.
They discuss the origins of the universe.
Renaissance.
The city experienced a cultural renaissance.
The artist was inspired by the Renaissance period.
Vein.
The doctor found a suitable vein for the injection.
There was a rich vein of gold in the mine.
Pact.
The countries signed a peace pact.
They made a pact to help each other.
Entry.
The entry to the building was guarded.
She submitted her entry for the writing contest.
Ethic.
The company promotes a culture of high ethics standards.
He has a strong work ethic.
Exhale.
Take a deep breath and exhale slowly.
She had to exhale sharply to blow out the candle.
Procrastinate.
She tried not to procrastinate and finished her work early.
He tends to procrastinate on his assignments.
Capricious.
The weather in the mountains is very capricious.
She was known for her capricious decisions.
Bon.
The bon appetit sign hung in the kitchen.
They wished each other a bon voyage before the trip.
Vinegar.
She added a splash of vinegar to the salad.
The recipe called for apple cider vinegar.
Firms.
The law firms offered different types of services.
Several firms competed for the contract.
Granite.
The countertop was made of polished granite.
They admired the granite cliffs on their hike.
Twinkle.
She saw a twinkle in his eye as he told the joke.
The stars began to twinkle in the night sky.
Foray.
They made a brief foray into the neighboring town.
His foray into cooking was a success.
Cove.
The boat anchored in the calm cove.
They found a secluded cove to set up camp.
Growl.
The dog began to growl at the stranger.
He heard a growl coming from the bushes.
Prosthesis.
The prosthesis helped him walk again.
She was fitted with a new prosthesis.
Banish.
The king decided to banish the traitor from the kingdom.
She tried to banish all negative thoughts.
Cataclysm.
They prepared for the possible cataclysm of a hurricane.
The earthquake was a major cataclysm that devastated the city.
Amend.
He decided to amend his will.
They worked together to amend the proposal.
Lobe.
The brain has several different lobes.
The doctor examined the lobe of his ear.
Companion.
Her dog was a loyal companion.
He brought a companion with him on the trip.
Plight.
The organization aims to improve the plight of the homeless.
They were moved by the plight of the refugees.
Audible.
Her whisper was barely audible.
The speaker made sure his voice was audible to everyone.
Ameliorate.
The new policy aims to ameliorate the impact of pollution.
They hope to ameliorate the living conditions in the village.
Overcast.
The sky was overcast and gray.
They postponed the picnic due to the overcast weather.
You.
They planted a yew hedge around the garden.
The yew tree is known for its longevity.
Cafe.
They enjoyed coffee at a small cafe.
The cafe was known for its delicious pastries.
Swap.
She wanted to swap her old phone for a new one.
They decided to swap seats for a better view.
Sever.
He had to sever the rope to free the boat.
They decided to sever all ties with the former partner.
Privy.
Only a few people were privy to the secret plan.
She was privy to the confidential information.
Provoke.
His comments were meant to provoke a reaction.
She tried not to let the criticism provoke her.
Leaner.
He became leaner after months of training.
The new machine was designed to be leaner and more efficient.
Animosity.
There was a lot of animosity between the rival teams.
They put aside their animosity to work together.
Inherent.
She has an inherent talent for music.
The risks are inherent in the process.
Revolt.
The citizens began to revolt against the oppressive regime.
The army tried to suppress the revolt.
Puny.
He felt puny next to his tall and strong friends.
The plant looked puny compared to the others.
Fitful.
She had a fitful night's sleep.
The baby's fitful cries kept them awake.
Contrast.
There was a noticeable contrast between their opinions.
The bright colors were in stark contrast to the dull background.
Chuck.
He gave the ball a chuck across the field.
She decided to check the old magazines.
Pedestal.
They placed the award on a high pedestal.
The statue stood on a marble pedestal.
Capacity.
The theater's capacity was 500 people.
She worked at full capacity to finish the project.
Prudential.
The company offered prudential advice to its clients.
They made a prudential decision to save money.
Upturn.
The economy showed signs of an upturn.
There was an upturn in sales during the holiday season.
Skid.
He managed to skid to a stop just in time.
The car began to skid on the icy road.
Overt.
His overt actions made his intentions clear.
There was an overt display of affection at the party.
Lever.
They used a lever to lift a heavy rock.
He pulled the lever to start the machine.
Debris.
The street was filled with debris after the storm.
They cleared the debris from the construction site.
Yield.
Drivers must yield to pedestrians at crosswalks.
The farmer hoped for a good yield this year.
Cogent.
She presented a cogent argument for the proposal.
His cogent reasoning convinced the committee.
Ember.
He watched the ember glow in the fireplace.
The fire had burned down to a single ember.
Simulate.
The flight simulator can simulate different weather conditions.
They used a computer program to simulate the experiment.
Cactus.
She kept a small cactus on her windowsill.
The cactus thrives in the desert.
Convulse.
The patient began to convulse unexpectedly.
The shocking news made him convulse with laughter.
Tenacity.
They admired his tenacity in pursuing his goals.
Her tenacity helped her overcome many challenges.
Tabloid.
The scandal was all over the tabloid headlines.
She didn't believe the stories in the tabloid.
Skip.
He decided to skip the meeting.
She likes to skip rope in the playground.
Cupboard.
The dishes are stored in the kitchen cupboard.
She found an old photo album in the cupboard.
Approve.
Her parents did not approve of her decision.
The committee must approve the new policy.
Microfilm.
The old newspapers were preserved on microfilm.
He viewed the documents on microfilm at the library.
Overcoat.
She hung her overcoat by the door.
He wore a heavy overcoat in the winter.
Prom.
She bought a beautiful dress for the prom.
They danced together at the prom.
Freelance.
She enjoys the flexibility of her freelance job.
He works as a freelance writer.
Cedar.
The cabin was built from cedar wood.
They loved the smell of the cedar tree.
Custody.
The police took the suspect into custody.
The court awarded custody of the child to the mother.
Truffle.
She added a truffle to the pasta for extra flavor.
They searched for truffle in the forest.
Furthermore.
Furthermore, they decided to extend the deadline.
The project is important, and furthermore, it is urgent.
Vacuum.
He used a vacuum to clean the carpet.
The experiment was conducted in a vacuum chamber.
Cumbersome.
She found the old computer system cumbersome to use.
The cumbersome package was hard to carry.
Poplar.
The poplar trees lined the street.
They used poplar wood for the furniture.
Priority.
She made it a priority to finish her work on time.
Safety is our top priority.
Slash.
He used a knife to slash the rope.
The company plans to slash prices to attract more customers.
Void.
He felt a void in his heart after she left.
The contract was declared void.
Disrupt.
The protest aimed to disrupt the meeting.
Loud noises can disrupt concentration.
Defuse.
He tried to defuse the tension in the room with a joke.
The expert was able to defuse the bomb safely.
Missile.
The country launched a new missile test.
The missile struck its target accurately.
Democracy.
A true democracy allows everyone to vote.
They fought for democracy in their country.
Peach.
She picked a ripe peach from the tree.
The peach pie was delicious.
Trauma.
The accident left her with emotional trauma.
He needed therapy to deal with the trauma.
Appropriated.
The funds were appropriated for the new project.
He appropriated the idea without giving credit.
Barley.
They used barley to make the soup.
The field was full of barley ready for harvest.
Vitamin.
She takes a vitamin supplement every day.
Vitamin C is important for the immune system.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplasts of plant cells.
Plants use photosynthesis to convert sunlight into energy.
Dependency.
The country's dependency on oil is a concern.
He struggled with dependency on alcohol.
Ladder.
In the latter part of the year, the weather cools down.
She preferred the latter option over the former.
Sanctify.
The priest will sanctify the new church.
They sought to sanctify their marriage through a ceremony.
Disadvantage.
His lack of experience put him at a disadvantage.
Growing up in poverty can be a significant disadvantage.
Lien.
The bank placed a lien on the property.
He couldn't sell the house because of the lien.
Exorcise.
They performed a ritual to exorcise the haunted house.
The priest was called to exorcise the evil spirit.
Reinstate.
The company decided to reinstate the old policy.
He was reinstated after being wrongfully terminated.
Brass.
The door was decorated with brass fittings.
The band played music with a strong brass section.
Grenade.
He threw the grenade into the enemy bunker.
The grenade exploded with a loud bang.
Hibernate.
Some animals hibernate to survive the cold months.
Bears hibernate during the winter.
Copper.
The pipes in the house were made of copper.
She wore a copper bracelet.
Entrance.
The grand entrance was decorated with flowers.
They waited at the entrance of the building.
Garlic.
She added garlic to the pasta sauce.
The recipe called for minced garlic.
Diversify.
He decided to diversify his investments.
The company plans to diversify its product line.
Metabolic.
Regular exercise boosts your metabolic rate.
The doctor explained the metabolic processes of the body.
Soar.
The prices of goods continued to soar.
The eagle began to soar high above the mountains.
Calorie.
She keeps track of her calorie intake.
This snack only has 100 calories.
Rhyme.
Children love to sing songs that rhyme.
The poet found the perfect rhyme for his verse.
Traction.
The car lost traction on the icy road.
His new idea is gaining traction.
Wayside.
Many old traditions have fallen by the wayside.
They stopped at the wayside to rest.
Sleaze.
The politician was accused of sleaze and corruption.
The tabloid was known for its sleaze stories.
Intimidate.
She felt intimidated by his aggressive behavior.
The bully tried to intimidate the younger kids.
Spectrum.
The colors of the spectrum can be seen in a rainbow.
Autism is a condition that exists on a spectrum.
Prospecting.
His prospecting efforts finally paid off with a big find.
They went prospecting for gold in the mountains.
Covert.
The spy was on a covert mission.
They held covert meetings to plan the surprise party.
Chord.
The song's opening chords were very striking.
She played a beautiful chord on the piano.
Clerical.
He did clerical work in the office.
The clerical staff prepared the reports.
Tennis.
She is a professional tennis player.
They played a match of tennis.
Compliment.
The wine was a perfect complement to the meal.
Her skills complement his perfectly.
Reshuffle.
They had to reshuffle the cards before dealing.
The manager decided to reshuffle the team.
Behave.
Please behave during the ceremony.
The teacher asked the students to behave.
Sinus.
The doctor examined his sinus cavity.
She had an infection in her sinus.
Communique.
The government issued a communiqué about the policy change.
They sent out a communique to all employees.
Muffin.
He ate a muffin for breakfast.
She baked a batch of blueberry muffins.
Chloride.
Sodium chloride is common table salt.
They tested the water for chloride levels.
Congruent.
Their goals were congruent with each other.
The two triangles are congruent.
Variety.
The store offers a wide variety of products.
She enjoys a variety of hobbies.
Jitter.
Too much caffeine can cause a jitter in some people.
He felt a jitter of excitement before the performance.
Supper.
They invited friends over for supper.
She prepared a light supper.
Scuff.
The table had a scuff mark on it.
He accidentally scuffed his new shoes.
Feet.
Climbing the mountain was a remarkable feat.
His performance was an impressive feat of strength.
Dormant.
Some plants remain dormant in the winter.
The volcano has been dormant for years.
Inevitable.
Change is inevitable in life.
It was inevitable that they would eventually meet.
Offense.
The team committed an offense and was penalized.
He didn't mean to cause any offense with his remarks.
Sapling.
They planted a sapling in the garden.
The sapling will grow into a tall tree.
Equate.
Some people equate success with wealth.
You can't equate money with happiness.
Cylindrical.
The container had a cylindrical shape.
They used a cylindrical tube for the experiment.
Traumatize.
She was traumatized by the sudden loss.
The accident traumatized him for life.
Tad.
The soup needs just a tad more salt.
He was a tad nervous before the interview.
Pierce.
The arrow could pierce through the armor.
She decided to pierce her ears.
Brittle.
The old wood was very brittle.
The candy was brittle and broke easily.
Splendid.
The view from the top was splendid.
They had a splendid time at the party.
Smog.
The city was covered in a thick layer of smog.
Smog can cause serious health problems.
Ether.
The radio signals seemed to come from the ether.
The anesthetic used to be ether.
Lottery.
She won the lottery and became a millionaire.
They bought a lottery ticket every week.
Blast.
They felt the blast from miles away.
The explosion caused a loud blast.
Hectare.
The farm covers over 50 hectares.
They planted crops on a hectare of land.
Baggy.
The shirt was too baggy on him.
He wore baggy jeans.
Mystic.
She is interested in mystic arts.
The forest had a mystic atmosphere.
Oxide.
They studied the properties of the oxide.
Iron oxide is commonly known as rust.
Chalet.
They stayed in a cozy chalet in the mountains.
The chalet had a beautiful view of the valley.
Thyroid.
The doctor checked his thyroid levels.
She has an underactive thyroid gland.
Dumpling.
The soup had delicious dumplings in it.
She made chicken and dumplings for dinner.
Triple.
The profits have tripled since last year.
He ordered a triple espresso.
Refuel.
They stopped to refuel the car.
The plane needed to refuel before the next flight.
Division.
The division of the company into smaller units helped improve efficiency.
There was a clear division of responsibilities.
Oscar.
She won an Oscar for her performance.
The film was nominated for several Oscars.
Submit.
She decided to submit her application online.
He had to submit the report by Friday.
Hostile.
The environment was very hostile.
They encountered hostile forces on their journey.
Tow.
He used a rope to tow the boat to shore.
The truck came to tow the broken-down car.
Heretic.
In the past, being called a heretic could be dangerous.
He was labeled a heretic for his unconventional beliefs.
Ignorance.
They acted out of ignorance and fear.
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Cajole.
She tried to cajole him into going to the party.
He managed to cajole a few extra dollars from his parents.
Bicker.
They began to bicker about where to go for dinner.
The siblings often bicker over small things.
Shudder.
He felt a shudder of fear run through him.
The old house made her shudder.
Virus.
The flu virus spread quickly through the school.
The computer virus corrupted all the files.
Dispiriting.
The constant setbacks were dispiriting.
It was dispiriting to hear the bad news.
Bulge.
The bag began to bulge with groceries.
His pocket had a noticeable bulge.
Glaze.
She applied a shiny glaze to the pottery.
The donuts were covered in a sweet glaze.
Shovel.
The gardener grabbed a shovel to plant the flowers.
He used a shovel to clear the snow.
Ethanol.
They used ethanol as a fuel alternative.
Ethanol can be produced from corn.
Motion.
The car was in constant motion.
He made a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Binary.
Computers operate using a binary system.
The data was stored in binary code.
Surname.
He changed his surname after the wedding.
Her surname is very common.
Poppy.
The field was full of bright red poppy flowers.
She wore a poppy to honor the veterans.
Talent.
They recognized his talent early on.
She has a natural talent for painting.
Delay.
The flight had a long delay.
She apologized for the delay in her response.
Subdivide.
The large company will subdivide into different departments.
They plan to subdivide the land into smaller plots.
Drool.
The baby began to drool when she saw the food.
The delicious smell made him drool.
Whimsy.
She decorated her room with a touch of whimsy.
The movie was full of whimsy and charm.
Poll.
They conducted a poll to gather opinions from the public.
The results of the poll were surprising.
Impede.
His injury did not impede his performance.
The heavy traffic will impede our progress.
Turbulence.
The plane experienced severe turbulence during the flight.
Emotional turbulence can be challenging to manage.
Retrace.
They retraced their route to ensure they didn't miss anything.
He tried to retrace his steps to find his lost keys.
Extravaganza.
The festival was an extravaganza of music and dance.
They planned an extravaganza for the company's anniversary.
Mayonnaise.
The recipe called for a tablespoon of mayonnaise.
She added mayonnaise to the sandwich.
Proscribe.
The government decided to proscribe the use of certain chemicals.
Smoking is proscribed in many public places.
Venetian.
She bought a Venetian mask as a souvenir.
They admired the beautiful Venetian architecture.
Punctual.
She is always punctual for her meetings.
Being punctual is important in the workplace.
Counterpart.
The new employee will be his counterpart in the sales department.
His Japanese counterpart will visit next week.
Sued.
The company was sued for breach of contract.
She sued her landlord for negligence.
Bronco.
The bronco threw him off during the rodeo.
The cowboy rode a wild bronco.
Runway.
The plane taxied down the runway before takeoff.
The fashion show took place on a long runway.
Encase.
They encased the statue in glass for protection.
The fragile items were encased in bubble wrap.
Constitute.
These elements constitute the foundation of the theory.
12 months constitute a year.
Literature.
The course covers American literature from the 19th century.
She has a passion for classic literature.
Ghastly.
The haunted house had a ghastly atmosphere.
She saw a ghastly figure in the mirror.
Smirk.
She couldn't help but smirk at his silly mistake.
He had a smirk on his face after winning the game.
Personnel.
The company hired new personnel for the project.
The personnel department handles all employee matters.
Clone.
The new software is just a clone of the original.
Scientists successfully created a clone of the sheep.
Overhaul.
The engine needed a complete overhaul.
They decided to overhaul the entire system.
Biomedical.
Biomedical research has advanced significantly.
She is studying biomedical engineering.
Perjury.
He was charged with perjury for lying under oath.
Perjury is a serious offense in the court of law.
Laureate.
She was honored as a laureate for her contributions to literature.
The Nobel laureate gave an inspiring speech.
Sclerosis.
Multiple sclerosis is a debilitating disease.
The patient was diagnosed with sclerosis.
Cherry.
The pie was filled with sweet cherry filling.
She picked a ripe cherry from the tree.
Aria.
The soprano sang a beautiful aria.
The opera featured a famous aria in its second act.
Enable.
His support will enable her to complete the project.
The new software will enable better performance.
Penned.
The critics panned the movie for its poor plot.
His performance was panned by the reviewers.
Rewind.
Let's rewind and look at the evidence one more time.
She had to rewind the tape to hear the song again.
Casualty.
The accident resulted in one casualty.
The war caused many casualty reports.
Controller.
They hired a new controller to manage the budget.
The comptroller oversees the financial operations of the company.
Ragged.
He wore a ragged old coat.
The flag was torn and ragged after the storm.
Spam.
Be careful not to open any spam links.
My email inbox is full of spam messages.
Helicopter.
The helicopter landed on the rooftop.
They took a helicopter tour of the city.
Uphold.
She swore to uphold the principles of justice.
The court decided to uphold the original ruling.
Pellet.
The stove uses wood pellets for heating.
He fed the rabbits with food pellets.
Urn.
The ancient urn was displayed in the museum.
They placed the ashes in a beautiful urn.
Allocate.
The manager will allocate resources for the new project.
They need to allocate funds for the event.
Goods.
They ship the goods to the customer.
The store sells a variety of goods.
Minimize.
We need to minimize our expenses.
He tried to minimize the risks involved.
Fastidious.
The chef was fastidious in his preparation of the meal.
She is fastidious about keeping her house clean.
Squawk.
The parrot let out a loud squawk.
They heard a squawk from the chicken coop.
Angular.
His face had sharp, angular features.
The building had an angular design.
Cane.
He walked with the help of a cane.
They harvested sugarcane on the farm.
Courage.
He showed great courage during the rescue mission.
It takes courage to speak up for what is right.
Recapture.
The soldiers managed to recapture the lost territory.
They tried to recapture the magic of their first date.
Lethal.
He was carrying a lethal weapon.
The snake's bite can be lethal.
Hive.
The bees returned to their hive.
They found a hive in the tree.
Sustenance.
The hikers carried enough sustenance for their journey.
They depended on the land for sustenance.
Messiah.
They waited for the arrival of the Messiah.
He was hailed as a Messiah by his followers.
Alongside.
The new building will be constructed alongside the old one.
He stood alongside his friend during the ceremony.
Prevail.
Truth and justice will prevail.
They hope to prevail in the competition.
Endorse.
He refused to endorse the policy.
The celebrity agreed to endorse the new product.
Quasar.
The quasar emits an enormous amount of energy.
Astronomers discovered a new quasar in the distant galaxy.
Append.
She decided to append an extra note to the letter.
You need to append your signature to the document.
Parochial.
His views are quite parochial.
The school has a parochial curriculum.
Brow.
He raised an eyebrow and furrowed his brow.
She wiped the sweat from her brow.
Probation.
He is on probation for 6 months.
The employee was put on probation due to poor performance.
Concerted.
A concerted campaign was launched to raise funds.
They made a concerted effort to finish the project.
Bulb.
The light bulb burned out.
They planted a tulip bulb in the garden.
Thermodynamic.
Thermodynamic processes are fundamental in physics.
The engineer studied thermodynamic principles.
Villa.
They rented a villa by the sea for vacation.
The villa had a beautiful garden and pool.
Dispense.
He was authorized to dispense medication to patients.
The machine can dispense a variety of drinks.
Proactive.
She is very proactive in managing her health.
The company took a proactive approach to solving the problem.
Draconian.
He faced draconian penalties for his actions.
The new law is considered draconian by many.
Riot.
The protest turned into a riot.
The police worked to control the riot.
Input.
The device requires user input to function.
We need your input on this project.
Knuckle.
He cracked his knuckles nervously.
She injured her knuckle while playing sports.
Squid.
The squid ink pasta was delicious.
They ordered fried squid at the restaurant.
Fickle.
Her fickle nature made it hard to predict her mood.
The weather can be very fickle in spring.
Concise.
The instructions were clear and concise.
He gave a concise summary of the report.
Blur.
The photo was a blur.
Everything became a blur as she ran past.
Gallery.
The gallery was filled with beautiful paintings.
They visited the art gallery downtown.
Authorized.
Only authorized personnel can enter the building.
He is authorized to sign documents on behalf of the company.
Collagen.
The product claims to boost collagen production.
Collagen is important for healthy skin.
Charisma.
The leader's charisma won him many followers.
She has a natural charisma that draws people to her.
Polity.
They studied the structure of the polity in history class.
The ancient polity had a complex system of governance.
Optimal.
We need to find the optimal solution.
The system is operating at optimal efficiency.
Classification.
The data classification is crucial for analysis.
The scientist worked on the classification of new species.
Ubiquitous.
Smartphones have become ubiquitous.
The brand's logo is ubiquitous in advertisements.
Stanza.
Each stanza of the song has a unique theme.
The poem's first stanza sets the tone.
Closure.
The factory's closure affected many workers.
They needed closure after the traumatic event.
Suspense.
The suspense kept the audience on the edge of their seats.
The movie was full of suspense.
Exquisite.
The painting was simply exquisite.
She wore an exquisite dress to the gala.
Defected.
The spy defected to another country.
He defected to the rival team.
Cluster.
A cluster of stars formed a beautiful pattern in the sky.
The grapes grew in a tight cluster.
Airways.
He had a blockage in his airways.
The airways were clear for landing.
Gown.
She wore a beautiful evening gown.
The hospital provided a sterile gown for surgery.
Valid.
He raised a valid point during the discussion.
The ticket is valid for 1 year.
Misery.
The storm caused widespread misery.
She lived in misery after the accident.
Temperature.
They checked the patient's temperature regularly.
The temperature dropped significantly overnight.
Blade.
The blade of the knife was sharp.
The windmill's blades turned slowly.
Vague.
The instructions were too vague to follow.
Her answer was vague and unconvincing.
Utilitarian.
The design of the building is very utilitarian.
He prefers a utilitarian approach to problem solving.
Platinum.
The album went platinum within a month.
She wore a platinum ring.
Deplore.
They deplore all forms of violence.
She deplored the decision to cut down the trees.
Hash.
The dog made a dash across the yard.
He made a quick dash for the exit.
Hockey.
He plays hockey every weekend.
The hockey game was thrilling.
Biographer.
She is a well-known biographer of historical figures.
The biographer spent years researching his subject.
Locker.
She kept her books in the school locker.
He forgot the combination to his locker.
Reproduce.
Artists often try to reproduce famous paintings.
Most plants reproduce through seeds.
Arbiter.
The arbiter settled the dispute between the two parties.
An arbiter was chosen to ensure fairness in the negotiation.
Relapse.
Stress can often cause a relapse in patients.
He suffered a relapse after months of recovery.
Phase.
The project is entering its final phase.
Childhood is an important phase of life.
Unix.
Unix commands are essential for system administrators.
He prefers using the Unix operating system.
Infirmary.
She went to the infirmary for treatment.
The school's infirmary is well equipped.
Underestimate.
They underestimated the difficulty of the task.
Never underestimate the power of kindness.
Eucharist.
The priest administered the Eucharist during the service.
Many Christians partake in the Eucharist regularly.
Administrator.
She works as an administrator at the university.
The administrator handled all the office paperwork.
Soot.
The chimney was covered in soot.
The fire left a layer of soot on the walls.
Cower.
He would cower whenever he heard a loud noise.
The dog began to cower in fear during the storm.
Steroid.
Athletes are tested for steroid use.
Steroid medications can reduce inflammation.
Retract.
The cat can retract its claws.
He decided to retract his statement.
Sauna.
They relaxed in the sauna after their workout.
The hotel has a sauna for its guests.
Speckle.
The paint had a speckle of glitter.
The bird's feathers had a beautiful speckle pattern.
Scissors.
She used scissors to cut the paper.
Be careful when using sharp scissors.
Affix.
He tried to affix the poster to the wall.
Please affix a stamp to the envelope.
Concession.
They made a concession to end the argument.
The government offered a tax concession.
Hideous.
She wore a hideous dress to the party.
The monster had a hideous face.
Vertigo.
He experiences vertigo when looking down from heights.
Vertigo can be a symptom of an inner ear problem.
Diploma.
A college diploma can open many career opportunities.
She received her high school diploma at the graduation ceremony.
Humanitarian.
The humanitarian mission provided aid to the refugees.
He was known for his humanitarian efforts.
Scoff.
They scoffed at her suggestion.
He would scoff at the idea of dieting.
Statute.
The new statute aims to protect wildlife.
They reviewed the statute carefully.
Infect.
It's important to avoid situations that might infect you.
The virus can infect humans and animals.
Assault.
The man was charged with assault.
The assault on the fortress was fierce.
Rag.
His clothes were torn and ragged.
She wiped the table with a rag.
Awry.
Their plans went awry after the storm hit.
Something went awry during the experiment.
Underwrite.
They needed someone to underwrite the new project.
The bank agreed to underwrite the loan.
Antelope.
The antelope ran swiftly across the plains.
They spotted an antelope while on safari.
Mascot.
The company's mascot is well known.
The school mascot is a lion.
Queer.
He had a queer feeling about the place.
The old house had a queer charm.
Recollect.
He could barely recollect his childhood memories.
She tried to recollect the events of that day.
Stump.
The old tree stump was hard to remove.
The question completely stumped him.
Eve.
Water dripped from the eave during the rain.
Birds nested under the eave of the roof.
Corn.
They harvested the corn in the fall.
The popcorn was made from fresh corn.
Client.
The company values every client.
The lawyer met with his client.
Jug.
She poured water from the jug.
The jug was full of lemonade.
Pummel.
The storm pummeled the coastline.
The boxer began to pummel his opponent.
Solder.
He used solder to fix the broken circuit.
Soldering requires a steady hand.
Deluxe.
The deluxe edition includes extra features.
They stayed in a deluxe suite.
Evict.
The landlord decided to evict the tenants.
They were evicted for not paying rent.
thatch,
The villagers repaired the thatch after the storm.
The roof was made of thatch.
humanities,
She majored in humanities at college.
The humanities department offers many courses.
parson,
The parson visited the sick parishioners.
The parson gave a moving sermon.
formative,
Her formative years were spent abroad.
Those were the formative experiences of his life.
parade,
The soldiers marched in a parade.
They watched the annual parade.
stash,
He had a stash of candy hidden away.
She found his secret stash of money.
sensitive,
The issue is quite sensitive and needs careful handling.
She has very sensitive skin.
inquire,
He decided to inquire about the job opening.
She inquired if there were any available tickets.
mirth,
His jokes brought mirth to the group.
The room was filled with mirth.
admonish,
The teacher admonished the students for talking.
He was admonished for being late.
transnational,
Transnational companies operate in multiple countries.
They are involved in transnational trade.
crank,
He used a crank to start the engine.
The old cranky man yelled at the kids.
monsoon,
They prepared for the upcoming monsoon.
The monsoon season brings heavy rains.
skeleton,
They discovered a dinosaur skeleton.
The skeleton is essential to the body's structure.
sonnet,
She composed a beautiful sonnet for her lover.
Shakespeare wrote many famous sonnets.
Flaunt.
She loves to flaunt her new clothes.
They flaunted their wealth at the party.
Incident.
They reported the incident to the police.
The incident happened late at night.
Outpouring.
There was an outpouring of support for the cause.
He felt an outpouring of emotion.
Deceptive.
His calm demeanor was deceptive.
Appearances can be deceptive.
Bail.
She posted bail for her friend.
He was released on bail.
Applaud.
We should applaud their efforts.
The audience began to applaud loudly.
Affable.
He is an affable host.
She had an affable personality.
Textile.
She studied textile design in college.
The region is known for its textile industry.
Microphone.
He spoke into the microphone.
The microphone picked up all the background noise.
Balcony.
The singer stepped out onto the balcony.
They enjoyed the view from the balcony.
Ruffle.
The breeze ruffled her hair.
The dog ruffled the leaves.
Shortly.
She arrived shortly after us.
The meeting will begin shortly.
Evasion.
The criminal was arrested for tax evasion.
His constant evasion of questions was suspicious.
Molest.
The law punishes those who molest others.
It's illegal to molest wildlife.
Immune.
He is immune to the disease.
Vaccination helps you become immune.
Grimace.
He grimaced in pain.
She made a grimace when she tasted the sour candy.
Revolve.
The planets revolve around the sun.
The discussion revolved around the main topic.
Resurgence.
The city saw a resurgence in tourism.
There's a resurgence of interest in vinyl records.
Gasoline.
They filled the car with gasoline.
The price of gasoline has risen.
Neglect.
She was accused of neglecting her duties.
The house fell into neglect.
Decrease.
There has been a decrease in crime rates.
We need to decrease our expenses.
Duke.
The Duke has a large estate.
The Duke attended the royal ceremony.
Hub.
The city is a major transportation hub.
The computer's USB hub is very useful.
Extensive.
He has extensive knowledge in the field.
The damage was quite extensive.
Carton.
She bought a carton of milk.
The carton was filled with eggs.
Insult.
She was hurt by the insult.
He took the comment as an insult.
Torch.
They used a torch to light the way.
The athlete carried the torch during the ceremony.
Entirety.
The speech was broadcast in its entirety.
She read the book in its entirety.
Hoof.
The horse's hoof was injured.
Cows have a split hoof.
Ben.
The use of plastic bags was banned.
They imposed a ban on smoking.
Paragraph.
Please read the first paragraph.
Each paragraph should have a clear topic sentence.
Mango.
She made a mango smoothie.
The mango was ripe and sweet.
Engross.
He was engrossed in the book.
The movie was so good it engrossed the entire audience.
Dire.
The consequences of the mistake were dire.
They were in dire need of help.
Truce.
The two sides agreed to a truce.
The truce ended the conflict temporarily.
Refrain.
He couldn't refrain from laughing.
Please refrain from smoking inside.
Starboard.
The ship turned to starboard.
The starboard side faced the dock.
Graphic.
The graphic design was stunning.
The novel included graphic descriptions.
Consolidate.
They decided to consolidate their assets.
The company plans to consolidate its operations.
Mane.
She had a thick, curly mane of hair.
The lion's mane was majestic.
Spurt.
Water began to spurt from the broken pipe.
The athlete had a sudden spurt of energy.
Terrier.
She has a small terrier as a pet.
The terrier barked loudly.